Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Kevin Element. I'm a professor at Confederation College, teaching multimedia production. Today we're going to be talking about pre-production for short video, and I want to introduce you all to a tool called Celtx. I've been using Celtx now for the last 3 years. I've integrated it into several of my courses, and I just want to say it's a fantastic tool for the production of treatment, script, screenplay, as well as your finished storyboards. And the way that the tool works, with all of these different components in mind, it makes it really simple to move between all of the different aspects of your pre-production and get the job done really quickly and in a very professional manner. So I've downloaded Celtx from the website celtx.com, and I'm just looking at the opening welcome screen here. You can see on the right hand side there's some sample projects: Wonderful Wizard of Oz, A Day at the Races, War of the Worlds. So some sample projects that you can look at just to see how Celtx has been used to organize all the pre-production pieces. What I'm looking here today, and what's important to my course, Nonlinear Editing in second semester of multimedia, is a specific project template. I'm going to be looking at the film project template here. And for those of you who've downloaded the program, you can follow me through and pause whenever necessary to get into Celtx and start using it yourself. So I'm just going to simply click on the project template film, and you'll notice in the top left hand corner here there's some files that have already been included. One misnomer or one misunderstanding about Celtx is that it's like Word or something where you're producing one specific file. Indeed, all of your project components are going to be saved in a specific file format, a Celtx file format, but everything that you import in, whether that's media like JPEGs or WAV files, anything that you bring in is going to be added to the Celtx database. I like to think of Celtx files as being more like a database than anything else. And every time you add something into your project library, it's producing another file type within the Celtx database so that you can quickly get access to it and work with the different components that you need. Out of the gate, Celtx will give you 3 important file types inside of a project that's currently called Untitled. At any point in time, you can rename an item. So I'm going to rename this item to my film. The master catalog currently says 0 beside it because we don't have any items in the master catalog yet. We have a screenplay and we have a sketch. Sketches are really nice because you can use their vector drawing tools to produce some interesting camera setups, or actually start to show how your sets are going to be built, those types of things. We'll look at those in upcoming moments of video here. So I've created a new project. I have a screenplay. That's what's opened up here by default. So if I start to look around the interface to see what tools I have at my disposal, I can see clearly above my screenplay that there's a pull-down menu. And this is really handy. These are very common categories that are used in the creation of a screenplay. We have a scene heading, we have action, we have characters, we have dialogue. Those are the 4 topic areas that we're probably going to discuss the most. We can even add transition shots, some parenthetical language if need be, or just some loose text just to maybe write a note to remind ourselves of what we're doing in the script at that point. But scene headings, action, character, and dialogue are really the ones that we're going to use the most here. So we've got some formatting tools along the top, and on the right hand side we have an area that encourages us to add notes. If we just want to remind ourselves, we can add media if need be. And then there's this really important component that I'm going to be looking at depth here soon, which is our script breakdown, or our screenplay breakdown tool. Yeah, let's take a look at how to start to create some of our project pieces that are really valuable. When starting a new film project, whether it's a short film, whether it's a feature-length film, we should start with what the industry calls a treatment. There's a lot of differing opinion about what a treatment truly is. Some people think it's a one paragraph, one page short story. Some people think that it should be 3 to 5 pages long and contain a little bit more description about things like character. And other people think it might be a 60-page novel. I tend to lean towards the second example, where a treatment should be somewhere between 1 to 5 pages in length, depending obviously about around the length of your story. And what I don't see in Celtx right now is a place to create my treatment. I've got a catalog and a screenplay and a sketch. So where am I going to store my treatment? If you look up above in the project library, you'll see a plus button that when moused over will say add item. And once again, this is going to create a file inside of the Celtx database. It's going to create a novel type file. And if we look at all the different options here, we have another script. So we could create a novel, storyboard, sketch, etc. And what I'm most interested here is what Celtx is referring to as a novel. And I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call that treatment. And I'm going to put it in the folder My Film. And I'm just going to hit OK, and you'll see the interface change with a new tab. So our screenplay is open and our treatment is open. The user interface is changed on the left-hand side now to include chapters. So if you're writing a full novel, you can start to break down all of your different chapters that way. Since this is a treatment for a short story, my students are expected to create a 3 to 5 minute short film. I'm actually not going to use the chapters feature at all. Instead, I'm just going to backspace or press the delete key on my Macintosh. I'm going to get rid of the chapter, and I'm just going to title this My Treatment. And similar to Word, you're going to have some very basic tools up here: bold, italicize, underline, strike through. You can format a little bit. You can choose a different font if need be. But this is where we write our short story. And in my estimation, and this is up for debate, a treatment reads like a short story, something you have been exposed to since you were a very young child. Your treatment might even start off with "Once upon a time." Now I can only imagine, I'm going to hear a lot of comments down below from writers who might not think that this is a great approach. I'm just a huge fan of those 4 words because ever since we were a child, we've heard these 4 words, and one thing happens when we hear them. We immediately begin to suspend disbelief. We realize that the reader or the speaker is trying to tell us a story, and I think that's a very interesting psychological cue that is often forgotten in writing. Often sophistication tries to take over. But in this case, this treatment is for us. We may never actually share it with anyone. So how you choose to approach your own writing is up to you. And on my website, I will have some more information pointing out to resources relating to how to frame up this treatment. So this would be our starting point. We would create our treatment here. We would flesh out a 5-paragraph story in the case of my students, or more for those of you writing longer stories, and then review. Have other people put their eyes on the story. Some things that we absolutely want to discuss in our treatment. What is the motivation of our main character? Who is our main character? And all other supporting characters. And what is the goal of our main character? What is this character trying to achieve? The goal is an interesting one that I think is extremely valuable when you're writing short story, especially for film. Often people get exciting action shots in their minds, or they think of how they want a character to behave. But they don't really think of where the character is actually going. And in my estimation, I think and this is up for debate as well, I think it's extremely important that we write the end of our story early on, so we could say clearly exactly what it is our character's working towards. What is the outcome of this film once we get into denouement, where our action is coming to a conclusion? What do we want our end viewer to be feeling or thinking about when our main character actually achieves their ends? At the same time, we're describing environments, where and when is our action taking place, where are our characters being positioned, and much more, which I can't get into here because I do want to focus specifically on the Celtx tool. But I will be having links on my learning management system that point to some very excellent resources for learning how to write a treatment. So once you get your treatment complete and you know who your characters are and what they're trying to achieve, you can discuss some of the action. You might even bring some dialogue into your treatment that you think is important. Then we move over to our screenplay and double click on that in our project library. And you'll notice right away that Celtx is expecting us to start a scene heading. Down on the left side here, there's an important control in the user interface that says Scenes. As I start to type, there's some common language used in script writing. For example, if we're inside of a house, we might say INT. So I just typed the letter I, and you'll notice here that Celtx is trying to help us to format this as professionally as possible. So I'm going to select INT space. I'm just doing this on the fly. So Joe's house is going to be the name of my scene. Obviously, there's much more creative names, but I'm just going to try to run through this as quickly as possible. So that's scene 1, and we'll see down here on the left-hand side that a scene was created called Interior Joe's House. I press return. I'm just going to zoom up here so we can see what's going to happen to this pull down control. I press return and it says action. The scene doesn't have to start with action. I can pull this down and say I would rather have a scene heading or a character or dialogue. It would make no sense to have a scene heading. I already have one. But I could start immediately with dialogue if need be, or I could introduce a character. But it's encouraging us to create some action. So I'm going to start by saying Joe walks into the house and slams the door behind him. He turns to his mother. So we've got some action now in the shot. We can hit enter, and you'll notice the drop-down menu still says action, but now I want to introduce a character. And this is an important part of Celtx and how it's going to break down all of our different important components. I'm going to make sure that I select character. You can also get here by pressing the tab key, but as soon as I press character, you'll notice that the cursor moves to the middle of the screenplay, and I need to introduce, Joe. I press return. Now that I've written the character's name, the software is going to assume that I'm going to create some dialogue. So, hey mom, I had a great day at school. I'm going to press return. You'll notice in the drop-down menu here, it's gone back to character. So I'm going to introduce mom. But I'm not just going to call this character Mom. I'm actually going to use her proper name for reasons that will make sense later on. I could use the character name Mom if I wanted to, but I'm going to move forward and say, this is Marion. Press return, and what does Marion have to say? That is great news, Joe. Joe says, I did have one complication. I ran out of money. And I don't think I will be finishing school. I type M, and look at what Celtx is doing. It's looking through the catalog to discover other characters with the name that starts with M. I typed letter M, now I just have to hit return. And that's going to populate that automatically for me to ensure that I'm using the character names that I've already started to create just by simply writing character names into my script. I press return, and now Marion says, that does not sound like a great day at all. I press return. It's expecting that I write another character, but I can jump out here with my pull-down menu and I can say I want some action. Joe storms out of the house. Before leaving, he grabs his mother's enchanted wallet. Once again, I'm just making this up on the fly. And there's a very good reason why I'm using this type of language, mother's enchanted wallet. Sounds like that wallet is going to be something very important to the storyline down the line, so maybe as I start to break down this script, I can highlight that and actually start to make a prop list out of all of these important little components. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit here, and I'm going to press return. I just want to point out that you can use the tab key, the combination of shift and tab, to move through all of these different categories up here in this drop-down menu. So here it states I'm in action. I'm going to hold shift and press tab, and you'll see that it'll automatically change that to a scene heading. This time I'm going to have an exterior shot, so I'm going to type E. We can see Celtx is trying to help us once more by using the proper formatting for script. I'm going to choose EXT, which means exterior. This is going to be really creative. The exterior of Joe's house. Action. Let's see what this pull down is saying up here. It's indeed an action. So Joe sprints down the street and starts to cry. Now before we move much farther, I just want to look again at the left-hand side. Celtx is helping me to stay organized. It says there's a scene 1, the interior of Joe's house, and there's scene 2, exterior of Joe's house. It's doing that simply because I have been using the appropriate pull down, the appropriate category from here by using scene headings. Scene 1, in Joe's house. Scene 2, exterior of Joe's house. Celtx is smart, and it's knowing that I'm starting to create some new scenes, which is very valuable, not only for our production schedule that's going to happen later on, but also with our storyboards that we're going to start to look at how to create here soon. Okay. The other thing, we might be looking at the right-hand side as all of this happens. I'm just going to zoom up here and look at the third tab. I mouse over it and it says breakdown. I'm going to select that option. And so far in my movie, we have 3 characters. Jay, Joe, and Marion. I didn't put these into our breakdown list or our master catalog. Celtx did that automatically for me by simply creating these characters here. So you might ask the question, who's Jay? Well, if you were carefully watching earlier, I made a mistake, and I'll make that mistake again on purpose. I'm in scene 2. My breakdown is reflecting that. I press enter. Tab key once will create a character. Now, if the next character that I'm introducing, his name is Rick, I start to type R, and for some reason I decide to move to another part of the script. Say I'm not finished typing Rick yet, but I choose to highlight the word Joe. Look what happened over here. Character R. because I didn't finish the name of the character before I moved my cursor elsewhere in the document, it created a new character called R. So we have to be really mindful of that because Celtx is just doing this dynamically and it's not very intelligent. So let me finish typing his name, Rick. I press enter and we look carefully in our breakdown and there's R and there's Rick. So it did produce the appropriate character's name. We've got to be very mindful of all those other little, what I'm going to call leftovers that get stuck into our master catalog. I'm going to create some dialogue for Rick. I press return. Hello, Joe. You do not look good at all. I type J. It knows about Joe and J. Maybe at this point I'm just going to step back, take a look at now what is called my master catalog. It's telling me now, we saw at the beginning it said 0 items, but now there's 5 items. Huh. Why 5? Let's double click on the master catalog and see what's going on in here. Ooh, very cool. It's starting to break down my script, showing important things that are coming, looking at important things that I'm going to have to build up later. J is not a character, so I'm going to remove that item. The dialogue that says, are you sure you want to delete J? Yep. R was a mistake, so I'm going to delete R. I'm going to remove that from my master catalog. I'm going to press OK. And while I'm inside of the master catalog for the first time, I just want to take a quick look at some of the exciting features of Celtx that really help us to organize all of the really, really rich and important storytelling components of our pre-production. Stories cannot exist without characters that are driving action and pulling on our heartstrings and really pulling us into this story. That's asking us to suspend our disbelief so that we can give our end user, our viewer, a really rich and exciting experience. So I'm looking here carefully. Joe is one of our characters. What's his full name? We can go through Celtx and we can see all of these important different attributes that are so critical in storytelling. Full name, we're going to call him Joe Smith. And we don't have an actor for him yet, but there's an opportunity here to choose actors as we start to add them to our catalog. We can describe Joe. You know, Joe is a 20-something young, athletic man with hopes of becoming a doctor. And I'm just making this stuff up as I go. We can add media if we want. So if we wanted to add a JPEG of some actor that we've seen, maybe we want this gentleman to look something like Brad Pitt. We could grab a photo of Brad Pitt off of the internet and we can add it as media. Copyright always becomes an interesting discussion around things in my classroom relating to the use of media. And I would just like to say that this is a document that's meant for you. It's an internal document that's usually kept behind the production screen. So the world might not necessarily get access to this specific file, this Celtx file. This is for you to do all of your pre-production and organization. So feel free to load artwork into this thing. Maintain a catalog of exciting and inspirational things. Moving down, I just want to look at some of the other attributes that we can control. Detailed physical description, age. He's actually exactly 24. His hair is brown. His eyes are green. Well, this is something that as a Dungeons & Dragons player I really enjoy. This is kind of like the character sheet. Key character traits. Our character has a scar under his right eye. He is twitchy and very fast. Okay, and once again, I'm just making the stuff up on the fly here. What is the principal function of our character? This is going to be our protagonist. So we have all these different options. We have a protagonist. We're going to have one of those. And what is the goal of the character? To complete school even though he has no money. Very straightforward. This is what this individual's goal is. So what is this character's plan to achieve this goal? He is going to become a thief and steal all of the resources needed to complete school. He will learn that stealing is not the solution. Once he is arrested, on his graduation day. Yeah. Oh, all of these horrible things he's going to attempt to get away with, which we're going to dramatize and make them seem really cool and exciting. We're going to have him maybe hanging from a wire over a museum piece, and he's gonna steal all these fun things, and it's gonna seem really, really cool until reality hits at the very end, and he's gonna get arrested. Cool. Family background. He is poor. And you fill out these. These are things you spend a lot of time really thinking about. His habits and vices. He likes to smoke cigarettes. And this one's going to be an interesting one because this weakness in his character is actually going to be his downfall. And I'm just going to make a note in here. He needs a cigarette every 30 minutes, or else he starts to shake. During his last crime, Joe's shakes will get him caught. There it is. We've just started in a very organic manner working through this. We've actually started to create some very interesting story hooks. Okay, and there's lots more to work out in here. So that's the breakdown component that's built into what we call our master catalog, and it's one of our file types that exists inside of our project library. We're going to create another item in our project, and I'm going to make another video about this because it's going to need its own discussion. We're going to produce a storyboard item. And what's really important when you produce a storyboard is that you select the appropriate script. Right now down here it says script, no script selected. We got to make sure we pick the appropriate screenplay. That was the file type that we can see in the background with the language of Joe and Marion having some dialogue. I choose that specific screenplay, and watch what Celtx does, like magic. It sets up a storyboard for us with populated scene names. It already knows that we have a shot. We're obviously going to require a shot. This one might be a medium shot. We can write some notes for ourselves. Camera pans up. Joe's leg to his hand, etc., etc. Making this stuff up on the fly. We can add images that we've drawn, whether we've made that in Photoshop. We can add sketches to describe how we want the scenes to be created in the real world, so we can start to create a production schedule around things like our props, etc. Down here we have scene 2, and they're over here. And when we bring those down, these little drop-down arrows in our sequences, we can see all of our little sub-shots. And over here, we can see that in that specific scene, we can indeed add more shots. But I'm going to take a look at this later. So when we're finished and we're submitting all of our pre-production files, our Celtx files, we're going to have a master catalog, a screenplay, a treatment, and a storyboard. There might be a lot of different sketches that we continue to add. So I'm just going to delete this right now. We're going to start to create sketches as we need them. So that's looking more like it. This is what I would like to see submitted. Master catalog, screenplay, treatment, and storyboard. I hope this has been a helpful video for those of you getting your hands dirty with Celtx. I really hope you enjoy this process. Storytelling and story writing is absolutely freeing and fun, and I hope you all have some success. Thank you very much.